Well, David said it's a statement of the obvious, but sometimes that's what you need to do to make things clear. We can't have an economy get better if housing prices keep dropping like this. How can we put a floor underneath of them? Let's bring in housing expert Jack McCabe. He's CEO of McCabe Research and Consulting, and Dani Babb, founder of the Babb Group, a real estate investor and analyst. Good to have both of you with us, and let us start with you, Dani. You've looked through these numbers, as have we. Obviously, they are March, which I know we need to emphasize because it is a little bit dated. It was the center of spring selling season, though. Any sign of a bottom?
There are signs of bottoms in multiple markets. I'm starting to see them throughout the state of Colorado, Washington, Oregon, some areas in Silicon Valley, some areas in the Midwest, Oklahoma. So there are definitely some bright spots that have stabilized. We've also had some areas that really weren't hit hard to begin with, like Austin, Texas, and Kylene, Texas. We can put a bottom in this market if we can get buyers. First of all, buyers, their confidence anecdotally is coming back, which is a good thing, just like consumer confidence reported today is starting to rebound. But we need to also remind sellers not to just take the first offer and to not just let a realtor pick the price, but to actually do your own homework.
Jack, do you agree there are signs of hope here, or would you say no, it's just much too early, especially with the foreclosure issue?
Well, I think it's too early, Aaron. I think that we still have the biggest wave of foreclosures yet ahead of us. The majority of sales in many markets right now are distressed sales. That's the market. It's not a real market anymore. So until the foreclosures weed their way through the system, until we see markets where sales are not 90% foreclosure sales, auction sales, and short sales, we're going to continue to see these price drops, I believe, for the next 18 months. Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't some good buying opportunities out there now because of the foreclosure sales. We're seeing in Fort Myers, for example, where the median home price was $323,000 in 2005, is now down to $87,500. It's a 66% drop. So we are seeing some markets right now where there are signs of hope, but I still think we have a long way to go.
But, Jack, doesn't it kind of feed on itself, though? I saw recently last week in Miami that sales are way, way up. Prices still falling. But when you talk about the Miami market, which I know you're in, and which is the worst hit probably of most of the cities in the country, if you have all of these distress sales, foreclosure sales, and you have all these bottom feeders in there, isn't it continuing to push those prices down? How do you put the bottom under the prices if you can only get the bottom feeders into the market and you can't get the real organic buyers in there, the move-up buyers?
Well, I think the first thing that we should have done is going to be the last thing that eventually happens, and that is principal reductions. I do not see a stop in this wave of foreclosures unless we get to that, and that's really crucial because it cures a lot of people's ills, it keeps them in their homes, it also cures a lot of ills of the banks. And I think eventually we're going to end up doing it, even though the banks and their investors are fighting it tooth and nail.
So the banks and their investors should take a haircut here.
They should.
Not the people, not the people who got in over their heads through greed or stupidity.
Well, you know, Mark, I think that the people that you help are the ones who are homesteaders, that if you write their principles down to what the market appraisal values are now, that'll stem the wave of foreclosures that we have. That ultimately is the answer to curing the housing problem. We have to stop the foreclosures. I don't see it happening because right now all we're doing is restructuring debt, but people that are $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 or more upside down in their homes, they have no hope. They're still going to amount to foreclosures, whether it's now or a year or 3 years from now. So until we take care of this, I believe we're not going to see a bottom to this housing market.
I think we're going to start to see a bottom in the housing market in the conventional financing realm, which is, for most of the country, under about $240,000. I do agree with Jack in one area, and that is that we need to watch out for those jumbo loans that are about to reset in 2010, 2011. They're going to be a big linchpin for this market. But we have to remember that, yeah, in some areas of South Florida, particularly Fort Myers, a great example, number 2 in the country right now in terms of numbers of foreclosures by city. Vegas is the only one that's beating it. If we look at numbers nationwide, though, sales are actually about 25% of them are foreclosure homes, not in the 90 percentile range. Those are areas that were heavily investor driven. So even if we're knocking down the principle of homeowners in those particular areas, we still have 90% of the homes that are in foreclosure being owned by investors, and that problem, that's actually not going to help those people. I think reminding first-time buyers of the $8,000 tax credit and getting sellers to stop taking the first offer is going to also help this market.
All right, we got to leave it there. Jack McCabe, Dani Babb, thank you very much, and of course,